Everyone, thank you for coming to join us at the Sutron Global webinar for April. We have a special guest speaker, as I'm sure you all know, and we'll be introducing them shortly. So we just wanted to take a moment to welcome you all again, and hopefully will be approximately half an hour for everybody with lots of time for questions. I'm going to introduce our speakers for the day. We have Michael Hughes, who's coming to us from our London, UK office. We have myself, Tanya Anderson from Vancouver, BC, and our special guest speaker who's coming in from California. Michael, can I turn it over to you?
Absolutely, thanks Tanya. Good morning, good afternoon everybody. Pleasure to have you along with us. Just a very brief introduction really to the forum in which you find yourselves currently. Sutron Global is the sponsor of this particular session today. And Sutron Global, for those that may not know, is a cloud-based library, knowledge and information management solution provider. So we're dedicated and have been for many years now to working with information professionals, and the way in which we do so is evidenced on the next screen by way of examples of some of the solutions that we provide. So at the core of our offering is a library management system, or an ILS. More recently, we've also branched into discovery platforms, as well as archive management and KM. So if anybody would like to find more information about any of those solutions, we would welcome you to make connection to us via our website. And there's more evidence of examples of how you can connect with us on the next slide, I believe. There we go. So just topically and thematically, I guess, in currency where we are right now, we've also been working really quite hard to create a program to give back to the library community. As I say, we've been involved in this community for well over 20 years now. And so we've come up with an offering really to support and give back to the industry that's treated us well over those years. First and foremost is through sponsoring educational webinars, such as the one we're in today. This is the first of a series of such webinars that we'll be making available. So please keep your eyes peeled for details of further sessions with guest speakers. We're also supporting a number of non-profit organizations and professional associations, SLA included. And we also have financial incentives available to new clients that want to onboard with any of our solutions, and also support for our existing customers through mechanisms of additional and enhanced consultancy and training services. So please do reach out to us for any more information on any of that program via info@sutronglobal.com. Next slide there, please, Tanya. So anybody that wants further information will be able to find a wealth of material on our blog, on our website, follow us on Twitter, and you can also find us on LinkedIn, as you might expect. But without too much further ado, I'll hand it back over to Tanya, who will introduce our guest speaker for this session today.
Wonderful, thank you. So as everybody most likely already knows, we have the wonderful Deb Hunt joining us today. I'll just give a quick little introduction for anybody who's unfamiliar with her. Deb is the library director at the Mechanics Institute, which is a vibrant intellectual and cultural center serving the entire San Francisco Bay Area. She is also the principal of Information Edge, which specializes in enterprise, document, and digital asset management and knowledge services. In addition to her MLS, Deb is a certified enterprise content management practitioner and believes that learning never stops. Deb was SLA's 2013 president. Her presidential theme was to transform knowledge and expertise into strategic value. She's an active member of the Association of Independent Information Professionals, and she has authored numerous articles, presented at conferences, and received several professional awards. From 2015 to 2019, Deb was the co-presenter through SLA of Knowledge Management, Knowledge Services, a multi-part webinar and seminar series that has been very successful internationally. She is the co-author of the Librarian Skill Book, 51 Essential Career Skills for Information Professionals. And without further ado, Deb, please take it away.
Thank you, Tanya, and thank you, Michael. And I want to thank Tony Sadat as well for inviting me to come and present to you for a little bit. And I hope that what I'm going to talk about today we'll start a conversation, that this just won't be me spouting off information or knowledge, but that you will write down some questions or put them in the chat box, and that we'll have an opportunity to have a discussion, and I'll be able to hopefully answer your questions when we get to the end. So thank you so much. Tanya, can you go ahead and move us to the next slide? So I want to talk about our role. Whether you call yourself a librarian or information professional, you need to think about these questions. And this is what we're going to talk about in this presentation: is who are we, where do we want to go, and how will we get there? So it's really important for us to take charge of our career and not let others make those decisions for us. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so do you ever think about this? How do people perceive you? How would you answer these questions? What's in a name? What do we want to be called, and does it matter? Does our job title and the work that we do demonstrate our strategic value to our organization or to our clients? Even if our title is librarian, which I'm a library director, how do we leverage that so stereotypes are shattered and increased respect and value is placed upon us in what we do? So I'm going to tell you a story. This was a consulting job I did some years back, and it was for a global architectural firm. And they have their headquarters is in Texas, but they have an office here in the San Francisco Bay Area and other offices around the world. And what had happened was they had about 400,000 images on their server, and none of them had a taxonomy attached to them or subject terms. They had basic metadata that was attached to those images that came from the camera. So if you've ever worked with a digital camera, or even using your phone as a digital camera, you know that some data gets pulled off as soon as you take a photograph. There's usually, if you've programmed your camera to have your name on it, it'll say who the photographer is, it'll say the date it was taken, it will give you the size of the image, and it will also give you the format of the image, and maybe some other things, but that's about it. There's no other data around it. And what these photographers were doing was they would go out to a job site, or sometimes they'd even just go out to take pictures of things like architectural features like a curb or a water feature or something like that. And when they'd come back to the office, they would just suck all those pictures off of their camera onto the server and never thought about them again. And probably of 500 pictures that they would do in a shoot, they would bring them all back when they probably should have gotten rid of about 450 of them and only kept the best ones. And nobody was tagging them at all. And so what was happening was when staff in the firm would either prepare a proposal or write a client report, they often started going to Google Images to grab images instead of using the ones that their photographers had taken, professional photographers, and had put on the server, because they couldn't find the images they needed. And this came to a head when one of their clients got a report from them and recognized an image that had actually been copyrighted by this client. And so that brought all of this to a head, that they realized they needed to get better organized, not only with their images, but all of their documents as well. And so I was brought in, and I want to be really clear too, that the reason they found me was because of networking, not because they saw my website or anything like that. So networking is a really important thing, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And I met with the president several times over the course of this project. And what was really interesting was when the project was all over, and I'll tell you a little bit more about how we got there, he asked me, he had my business card, and he said, "What does this MLS mean after your name?" And I said, "Well, it's a master's in library science." And I had told him from the get-go that I had a library degree, but for some reason it hadn't sunk in. And he looked at me and he said, "I didn't know librarians could do this kind of work." And of course, I had already educated him, but I gave him my spiel about all the great things that librarians can do. And these were transferable skills from organizing libraries to organizing other sorts of information and data. And one of the things I always do when I do these consulting jobs is I come in at a high level, and I don't do the actual indexing or building the taxonomy. I hire somebody to do that, or I recommend they hire a librarian. And that was another conversation. He says, "Oh, I don't think a librarian could index all this information." And I reminded him, "Remember, I have a master's in library science, and we're going to be hiring somebody." So I wrote a job description. It got blessed. And then they said, well, we're only going to hire somebody for 6 months for half-time because we don't think this is really going to work out, but we're going to trust you that you've recommended this. Well, I'm happy to report to you that several years later, that position is still there. It is full-time, and they've actually hired more staff because they got the value of this, and now they are advocates for librarians. But they had to be educated about what we could do. So it's really important to demonstrate the value that we bring and why it matters about what we want to be called. It's okay to be called a librarian, but we need to show that we bring value to the organization. Tanya, can you go to the next slide, please? So how do we do that? And how are we going to get there? So we have to be proactive, taking control of our work and our career. Have to think about this. Are we exploiting and taking advantage of the opportunities in our work and in our professional development? Are we being proactive and saying, I can do that, or see a need and take on a project that no one else will or no one else can? Remember, in this architectural firm, there was nobody there who knew how to organize those images and other assets to make them findable and reusable. If we think we are too busy to take on additional things or projects, and we are all busy, we shut out opportunities. I encourage you to let go of things that no one else cares about, or at least that your major stakeholders don't care about. Many of my colleagues know that I have a motto: invest in yourself. For many of us, the days have passed when our employers may pay for our association membership dues, professional development, or even time off to attend professional meetings or conferences. If they do pay and they give us time off, that is a gift. It's important to remember that our job may end next week, next month, or next year, and that our professional development is our own responsibility. As someone who has been self-employed for many years and who has had employers who did not fund my professional development, I've experienced this. I encourage you to not let others determine your professional path and growth. So invest in yourself. Again, you may not have your job tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year. And of course, we're seeing that right now during this pandemic. So next slide, please, Tanya. So I want to talk a little bit about our strategic value and how we can empower ourselves to transform into the professionals that we need to be. So what are the trends that are happening that impact us in our careers and that must drive what we do and how we work? No matter where we work, our value to our organization or our clients, and this is true whether you're in a for-profit or for-profit or not-for-profit organization, we must continually demonstrate and deliver the value that we have as we transform what we do and how we serve our stakeholders, our customers, and our clients. This is especially true for those we serve who may think that what we do is not of value, or who think Google will provide the answer to everything. What we do needs to positively contribute to the bottom line of our organization or that of our clients. It does not matter what organizational type we are in. Remember, whether it's for-profit or not-for-profit, we still need to demonstrate how we contribute to the health and well-being of the organization. It's important to shout from the rooftops the value that we bring to the organization. We may think that others know how good the work is that we do, but often those in positions of power to hire and to fire and control budgets do not know the value we bring to the organization. We must tell them verbally and in writing, and we must tell them continually, and then we must show them. We must never, ever assume that they know. So it's really important to not wait to be asked. Be proactive, again, letting go of services and resources our customers don't want or need, and providing the ones they do, or the ones they don't know yet that they need. Only then will we be perceived as invaluable to the organization. Next slide, please, Tanya. So how do we transform knowledge and expertise into strategic value? We must continually ask ourselves, am I an investment or am I an expense? We must forge a brand, and then we need to communicate and demonstrate our brand and our value. So it's important to make sure that you speak the language your stakeholders understand, that you know the business of the organization, and that you know how the organization works and what it values. Need to know where your skills are needed and can add value. and know which services are needed and how they should be delivered, and then know how to consistently deliver and perform. And again, shout from the rooftops the value that you bring to the organization. So I'm going to challenge you to ask yourself every day, how do I express my value to the organization or to my clients? In other words, how do I demonstrate value so that the stakeholders turn to me as the expert who connects them to what they need, so they see me as essential to the success of the organization? Really important to be part of that equation that contributes to the success of the organization. Next slide, please. It's important not to confuse effort with results. So we must deliver results and envision ourselves as a key member of the leadership team in our organization. We need to ask ourselves continually, how am I aligned with the organization's strategic mission and goals? We can change our role perception if we are delivering results that make others look good. And that doesn't mean that we need to not take credit. We need to make sure that credit is given where credit is due, but we need to help others look good as well. And that's where partnering comes in with them. So how do we act the part? We need to dress for success. We need to act like we are an important part of the strategic team of the organization and put our energy and actions there. And I know as teaching the KMKS courses for SLA, a lot of the students were frustrated because they felt like they couldn't get through, that people wouldn't let them be part of a team or maybe be embedded. But as they began to reach out to those who they felt there was a roadblock, to show them the value they could bring, to give them something that was unsolicited but they knew was important to that person would open up to them, and then they had a partnership rather than trying to do this alone. So I encourage you to do that. So and remember to put your energy there. Let go of the stuff that nobody else cares about. Find out what makes you an integral, valued member of the organization and do that. I also want to encourage you to think about yourself as a Nordstrom person, not a Walmart person. Think about the value you bring and how you want people to be perceiving you and your value. Stick with the Nordstrom mentality, not the Walmart mentality. Be the professional you want to be. Use the language of the C-suite, like the CEO, the CFO, the CIO, or the manager's office. Walk the walk and talk the talk. And by attending webinars like this and others in our professional associations, we can gain those skills. Next slide, please, Tanya. So let's talk a little bit about demonstrating our value. We have to engage our users on their terms and add value where we can. Do we have a very visible web and other online presence? Do you have a great updated LinkedIn profile? I know it's time for me to update my LinkedIn profile. I haven't worked on it for a while, but I encourage you to do that. I also encourage you, something I hadn't thought about sharing with you, I have a career sustainability group on LinkedIn, and I encourage you to join that. It's free, and post there and ask questions. It's a great group of about almost 400 people. Are we the innovators in our organizations to implement, model, and test new technologies and other strategic tools? Remember I said earlier, say, I can do that. Raise your hand and say, I'll take that on. Even if you're feeling overwhelmed, again, let go of the stuff nobody else cares about so that you can be part of this innovation in your organization. We need to be comfortable that we add value, possibly in ways that are new to us. We're likely working with millennials, or maybe we are millennials, and others who are tech savvy. We need to be comfortable working with them where they are at. And that may mean learning how to use Slack or Zoom or other technologies out there so that we can be comfortable doing that and maybe even be leaders in that and train others. Not all of our users are going to be tech savvy. That's the other thing. We have to be able to swing to the other side of that and help those who need help and see the value in what we bring to them. We need to be agile enough to live in the print, digital, and virtual worlds. And this doesn't mean being an expert, but it means knowing enough to utilize and speaking intelligently about these tools. So again, that people see the value that we bring. And if you're not comfortable with these tools, there are so many free tutorials out there, more than ever, especially now. So I encourage you to go and look for those, whether you have a lynda.com account through your public library, or whether you go to the vendors themselves. They have wonderful tutorials. So please make sure that you take advantage of that and show your value to your organization. Next slide, please. So here's a sampling of some real job titles. And I want you to think about, what do these mean to you and to me as information professionals? You see that library is in only one of those job titles. So with these types of job titles in mind, the skills required and requested by employers and clients continue to expand and change. We need to acquire, develop, and utilize the transferable skills we may already have or perhaps need to strengthen that will empower us to become more valuable in our current positions or as we move into careers that utilize our information professional skills. Keep in mind that story I told you earlier about the architectural firm and the client and the president of the firm and what he thought librarians could do and what he learned we could do, that the power and the perception that I as a librarian brought to the table, and also the person that they hired, and actually hired another person to assist that librarian to get that work done, and continues to get done today, because of course they're always creating new images and new documents. So let's go to, we're almost done. Let's go to the next slide. This is one of my favorite quotes from Deepak Chopra. It says, every time you are tempted to react in the same old way, ask if you want to be a prisoner of the past or a pioneer of the future. I know what I want to be. I want to be a pioneer of the future. And yes, it's hard. It's not easy. How about you? What do you want to be, a prisoner of the past, or do you want to be a pioneer of the future? And then we're going to end on my next slide. And this, I have a question for you. So do you want to change your world? I do, at least within my sphere of influence, to be a force for good. I love this picture. It's one of my favorite pictures ever. I have it on my desk, a printout of it, because I have to remind myself every day that I want to stay in my comfort zone. But as you can see, the magic doesn't happen there. This is a wonderful image, and I encourage you to go to Chad's site and read up about him. He is very inspirational and in a wonderful way. Personally, professionally, the magic really does happen outside our comfort zone. And I think we are in a time right now where we're all getting outside our comfort zones and finding out we can do a pretty good job of it. So way back when I was a newly minted MLS grad and a new mom, I wanted to contribute actively to our profession. And I was working very part-time, so I volunteered to edit my library school alumni newsletter, Go UC Berkeley. I had never done this before, but I wanted to contribute something. From there, I began volunteering in my local SLA chapter, San Francisco chapter, moving up to chair committees, and then to chapter president, and eventually serving on the SLA International Board of Directors. And as Tanya mentioned, I was SLA president in 2013. This year, I am the chair of SLA's Knowledge Management Division, and I've also served on the AIIP, or Association of Independent Information Professional Board of Directors. I also volunteer in my church. All of these experiences have not only provided excellent professional development and a strong skill set, but also an amazing network of colleagues who've become dear friends. I know I can call on them for professional and personal support, and I'm there for them as well. And also, that is how I get most of my consulting work, is through my network. I mentioned that earlier, not because people find my website. So volunteering has been vital to building my skill set and network, and has been responsible for a very satisfying and exciting career. So I encourage you, if you're thinking about how you want to build your skill set, volunteer. It's a great way to do that. And that's all I have to say. We're going to open it up to you now to ask questions and have a conversation.
Perfect.
All
Thank you, Deb.
right.
Oh, sorry, Tanya.
Sorry, no, you go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to say there's a lot of good food for thought there, and it certainly stirred some people into coming forward with some questions. So if
Oh, good.
anybody would still like to ask questions, then please do so just now via the questions or the chat box. But we do have one straight through right now. Somebody was asking, Deb, if you wouldn't mind just to expand a little bit on the Nordstrom versus the Walmart mindset.
Oh, okay.
Talk a bit more to that, please.
Okay, so this is something that we need to perceive in ourselves. What is our self-worth? Am I worth investing in myself, whether that is being a member of a professional association and paying my own dues, going to a conference, taking a continuing education course, free ones and fee ones, and investing the time. Even for those free ones, there's a cost of time, right, that we invest to learn a new skill. And I think it's really important to remember that to be valued and seen as high value for what we get, not something that's a throwaway thing. And I'm not denigrating anybody who shops at Walmart, but our society has very much become one where we tend to buy a lot of stuff and it's disposable because the quality is not very good. But when we shop at Nordstrom, or I'm a Talbots person, though I go to the Talbots outlet because I get better deals there. I have wool gabardine lined skirts that are probably 10 years old that have never gone out of style, and they still look great when I go to meet with a client, or same thing with a pair of pants or whatever. They're timeless. And we want to be the same way. We want to be able to be in it for the long haul, but we want to invest in ourselves. So I could go to Walmart and probably buy a skirt. I haven't shopped for clothes at Walmart, so maybe $10.99. I don't know. At Nordstrom or Talbot's outlet, it might cost me $50, but it's a fivefold cost, but the return on investment is very high. And so I encourage you to think about yourself. Do people see you as the bargain, or do they see you as the value? And so that's what I'm talking about, is the value that we bring. That is when we step up and say, I can do that. I bring this to the table. But we also have to back that up with the investment of time and sometimes money to be perceived as that, and also the willingness to step out on a limb. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Deb. I have another one here. Somebody works in a hospital library, and they say that they publish a biannual report. How else can they demonstrate their value to the hospital administration department?
Well, as it turns out, when my children were little, I worked part-time in a local community hospital. I was a hospital librarian for 9 years, so I know a lot about this. And even though it's been a while, I was constantly up from my desk. If I left the library, I had some volunteers, so I would try to be there on the days they were there so I could get up, but they often staffed it when I wasn't there. And I would put a sign on my desk saying, I'm away from my desk right now. I'm out networking with people, or I'm out helping staff in the hospital. And then I would have my email address, I would have my cell number so they could text me if it was urgent. And then I would just go out, and I went out and talked to people. I did a couple of things. I made sure the library was part of the hospital new staff orientation, whether it was nurses or physicians or respiratory therapists or even volunteers, so that everybody knew that this hospital library is there and the value that it brought. I was also part of the continuing education committee, and if you're not part of that, and there is one, I encourage you to work hard to get on that committee. And if you can't right away, start providing information and knowledge to them proactively so they see your value and then want to have you included in that, because that's a key thing, that what you bring to the continuing education that all medical and health professionals need to do to get certified and remain certified. I would say be out and about. Don't wait for twice a year or once a year to let people know the value that you bring. Tell them every single day, and then show them. Be proactive. If you find out that there is, like right now with the COVID-19 epidemic, they are overwhelmed, I'm sure. Can you provide a daily, here's the best stuff today, something they can read and do in 5 to 10 minutes because they are very busy, something to help them. It doesn't even have to be something health science related. It could be something personal about self-care or how to decompress once you've left, the hospital. And if there are monitors around the hospital, you could have those broadcast out. You could have I don't know if the hospital has a social media presence, be part of that. Find places where you can be integrated into the everyday dealings and the attention getting of the staff in the hospital. And again, you might want to think about who the power brokers are and serve them better. I would start with the administration, but I'd also start with those that are like the head of the continuing education department. The nursing department actually became my biggest allies. And they were a great ally to have, because I was the first person who said everybody's welcome to the medical library. Prior to that, it had only been the physicians. And so right away I had a lot of allies. So make sure that you're strategic about that, because you can't be everything to everyone. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Deb. Just try and squeeze one more in here. It's a good one and it's topical. What do you think should be an approach for career planning, given the great unknowns of the current crisis? Budgets and staffing will likely be examined for both staff and independent consultants and contractors. Budget cuts are already in discussions across many organizations.
Absolutely true. We're going through that right now at the Mechanics Institute, so I know exactly what you're talking about. I would say that if you are home, some people are furloughed, like right now we're paying staff for quite a while, but not everybody has that luxury. Even if you are not being paid, if you are furloughed and you have access to your work email or consulting email or whatever it is, continue to send out communications. I don't want you to spam people, but again, show them that you are part of the solution, that you are not part of the overhead. Here's the value I bring. Here's an article you might be interested in. Here's a short summary, because I realize you might be very busy and being bombarded with a lot of information. I have a saying, Dale Stanley, who I co-taught, and with Guy St. Clair too, the KMKS courses, always I would say this, is that information is cheap, but knowledge is priceless. And again, it's the Walmart versus Nordstrom, a dichotomy. We want to bring value, we want to bring knowledge. And if you can think about ways that you can demonstrate your expertise and your knowledge that sets you apart in a good way from all the other stuff they're being bombarded with, that is a great way to go, and show that you're still buying in, even if maybe you're not getting paid at this point, or there's a potential that you'll be laid off. So remember that you want to keep doing the work that's good to show your value, because it may not pay off today or tomorrow, but when you're job hunting, when this is all over, or there's layoffs on the horizon, your value will have been demonstrated, and they'll see you as a strategic, integral member that needs to be retained or hired. And I just want to say my email's there at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk to colleagues.
Awesome, thank you. I'll hand that back over to Tanya now, who can close us out. Thank you for the questions, and thank you very much for the answers there, Deb.
Well, thank you everybody for making time out of your day to be here today.
All right, so once again, thank you everybody for attending. That was some fantastic information from Deb. I certainly know I got a few things out of there. If you don't already know, please follow us on social media. We're having a series of webinars to really help enhance and help save everybody during this time. And we're going to be posting that all over our social media, so please feel free to join us there. If you have any questions, you can either email Deb directly, or please feel free to email us, and we'll be happy to help you out. To round us out, we'll just put up this slide again about the COVID-19. If you have any questions, if you'd like to contact us for more information, the email's there, and we're happy to help. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us. There will be a recording of the session available for everybody in their email, and we'll also likely be passing around a link for that. If you would like to have a copy of the PowerPoint, please feel free to let us know as well. All right, everyone, take care, stay safe, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.